how does a fox built to hunt survive an island with no lemmings, no mice, no small mammals at all? Whatever the bear leaves might be its only meal this week. This stretch of the high Arctic turns out to be one of the rare places in the whole region with no lemmings, no voles, no small mammals at all. The safety net every other Arctic fox population still has to fall back on. So out here, survival comes down to one thing: learning to live on other animals' luck. A bad winter for a reindeer, a good one for a goose. That absence is the defining fact of this whole archipelago, Svalbard, a scatter of frozen islands in the Norwegian high Arctic, glaciers burying more than half the land, drift ice crowding every coastline, mountains that never fully lose their snow, even in the short Arctic summer. The rock ptarmigan is already turning white. Camouflage it needs weeks before the fox does. For nearly 4 months every year, from late October to the middle of February, the sun here never clears the horizon at all. And it is during exactly that stretch that most of these animals either find enough to eat or they do not. Scale alone will not decide which. The neighbors sharing this ice are about to make that clear. A reindeer paws at snow gone to solid ice, unable to reach the lichen underneath. A ringed seal keeps a breathing hole open all winter, and a fox already knows where. The fox crosses onto a barnacle goose colony, while the birds are still settled deep on their nests. Close enough now that the first heads are starting to turn and track its every step across the whole slope, one by one. It goes straight for the nearest nest, and the whole colony erupts at once. Dozens of geese hissing, wings beating, diving at it from every side in a single furious wave. The fox ducking low and snapping back whenever one gets close enough to strike. It comes out with one egg held carefully in its jaws, geese still screaming overhead, already trotting fast for the safety of open ground beyond the colony edge. Further along the same stretch of tundra, the fox wanders closer to a shallow nest scrape than it means to, and an Arctic skua is already airborne. The skua drops in low and fast, striking at the fox from behind hard enough to knock it sideways, forcing it to duck and scramble before the bird banks around, climbs, and lines up for a second pass at the same angle. The fox gives up the ground, breaking into a run well clear of the nest, and the skua finally peels off once the distance between them is wide enough. Days later, further down the coast, the fox finds something better than an egg. A reindeer that did not survive the last hard cold snap, half buried in drifted snow right where it fell. A Glaucous gull has already found it too. Neither backs down. The fox plants itself over the carcass and snaps at the gull every time it lands. The two of them trading the same few feet of frozen ground back and forth. The gull darting in from a new angle each time it is driven off. Neither willing to be the one that walks away first. Eventually, the gull settles for the scraps at the edges, and the fox keeps the carcass itself, dragging off a first mouthful, already thinking ahead to tomorrow. This fox already knows every reindeer death site within its own territory by heart, and it is checking them again, one after another, the way it has every few days since the first hard freeze of the season. Nothing here actually hunts an adult reindeer. What kills them instead is the ice itself, a winter thaw followed by a hard refreeze that can seal an entire valley floor under a crust too thick for any hoof to paw through. So some years, many reindeer starve slowly before spring arrives, and other years, when the thaw never comes at all, almost none of them do. At the base of a slope, the scent finally sharpens, and the fox starts digging straight down through crusted snow, throwing it aside in quick bursts until dark fur and frozen hide come into view underneath. This carcass will feed it for days, maybe longer if nothing bigger finds it first. But a single find like this only carries a fox so far into a winter this long. Out past the shore-fast ice, the fox picks up a scent it can follow for kilometers. Blood, blubber, something recently killed and still fresh. A polar bear can smell a seal through a meter of compacted snow, and a fox can smell a polar bear's kill from almost as far away. Which is exactly the arrangement that keeps this particular fox alive out here, season after season, on ice that would otherwise offer it nothing at all. The fox closes the distance and settles in at a careful gap while the bear still feeds, circling once, twice, patient in a way it cannot afford to be about almost anything else, until the bear finally lifts its head and moves off toward open water. The moment it does, the fox darts in low and fast, seizes a torn strip of blubber in its jaws, and is already retreating before the bear has gone another 10 meters. It will follow this bear or another one for as long as the sea ice holds each winter. Because a fox that cannot learn to read a polar bear does not eat much at all out here. At a den dug into a south-facing slope, 7 kits are already tumbling over each other in the low midnight sun, biting ears, stealing bones, testing legs that only a few weeks ago could barely hold them up, while one parent watches from the entrance mound above, and the other is already out searching for the next meal. This den only exists at all because last winter happened to produce enough dead reindeer to get both parents through it in strong enough condition to breed at all, which means a litter this size is never guaranteed, year to year. It is a reward for a winter that happened, purely by chance, to go well, and there is no guarantee the next one will. The vixen returns from a goose colony with an egg held whole and unbroken in her mouth, and the kits mob her before she is even fully inside the den entrance, fighting over a meal that will not go far between 7 of them, the weakest 2 shoved to the back of the scramble. Every one of these kits has to be fully hunting, caching, and fending for itself well before the sun disappears again for the winter. Take this fox out of the picture, And a Glaucous gull gets every scrap of a reindeer carcass, instead of half of it. And a reindeer herd loses the one animal built to clean up after a hard winter. And when even scavenging fails here, some of these foxes do something almost no other fox on Earth does. They walk for months across hundreds of kilometers of sea ice until they find a place that still has something to eat. So how does a fox built to hunt survive an island where its usual prey does not exist at all? By refusing to specialize, by treating every other animal's death as its own next meal, for as many winters as its body will allow.